The asteroid belt between Proxima Centauri's fourth and fifth planets erupted in silent, brilliant explosions as Commander Varek Isari watched through the observation deck of the Galactic Confederation flagship Eternal Justice. His four eyes narrowed, pupils contracting against the sudden flare of light. The primitive human vessel, barely larger than a Confederation scout ship, had just decimated a chunk of rock larger than most moons. "How?" Ambassador Luzel Tares whispered beside him, her translucent skin flushing to a deep purple in agitation. "Their ship shows minimal energy signatures. Nothing that could generate a weapon of this magnitude." Commander Isari's mandibles clicked in frustration. "They call it a kinetic bombardment rod. No energy weapon at all, just refined tungsten crafted into rods and dropped from orbit." The human demonstration continued as another asteroid disintegrated. The Confederation delegation watched in horrified silence as the simple brutality of human warfare displayed itself across the void. 3 standard cycles ago, humanity had been discovered, a fledgling spacefaring species confined to a single star system. The Confederation's initial assessment had classified them as a Category 3 civilization, technologically primitive, but showing potential for rapid advancement. Standard protocol had been initiated: observation, limited contact, guidance toward eventual integration into the galactic community in another century or two. Then the harvesters had come. The insectoid raiders, long the scourge of the galactic rim, had detected the emissions from humanity's early fusion experiments. They had descended upon Earth with typical savagery, expecting an easy conquest of pre-space resources and slaves. The harvesters had not returned. Koppel Orson, Earth's appointed representative, stood calmly on the observation deck. Her posture was relaxed, almost bored, as she watched her species' weapons tear apart asteroids that had existed since the formation of this solar system. "Ambassador Orson," Commander Isari began carefully, "the Confederation appreciates this demonstration. But surely your species understands that such primitive weapon systems would be ineffective against properly shielded vessels." Orson turned, her strange flat face breaking into what humans called a smile, a gesture Isari had learned indicated either pleasure or predatory intent. Sometimes both. "Commander, with respect, you misunderstand the purpose of today's exhibition," she replied. "We're not showing you our weapons to impress you. We're showing restraint by revealing only our most basic systems." Ambassador Tares stepped forward. "Restraint? Your species has barely achieved interstellar travel." "True," Orson nodded. "And yet when the harvesters came, we eliminated their entire battle fleet using weapons developed before we'd even left our atmosphere. Weapons considered obsolete by our current military standards." The observation deck fell silent. The implications settled heavily upon the Confederation representatives. "That's impossible," whispered Science Attaché Drelk Vestron, his eye stalks quivering. "The harvester battle groups employ quantum-shielded craft. Nothing short of a Nova-class energy projector could penetrate their defenses." Orson's smile widened slightly. "Apparently not, you see. While the Confederation has spent millennia perfecting energy weapons and shields, humanity took a different path. We perfected the art of killing each other with kinetic force, chemical explosives, and radiation. When your shields are calibrated to deflect energy weapons, they prove remarkably ineffective against a simple projectile, moving at relativistic speeds." She gestured toward Earth's distant blue sphere, visible at the edge of the observation field. "For 3,000 years we've been perfecting ways to kill each other. The harvesters arrived just as we'd finally achieved relative peace among our nations. They unified us in a way nothing else could have. They gave us a common enemy, and we gave them extinction." Commander Isari felt a cold sensation travel down his spine ridges. "What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador Orson?" "An alliance," she replied simply. "Humanity wishes to join the Confederation as full members, immediately. In return, we offer our unique defensive capabilities against the enemies that plague your borders." "And if we decline?" Ambassador Tares asked. Orson's smile faded. Then we'll defend ourselves, as we always have. Alone. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Confederation hummed with anxious energy, as representatives from 87 spacefaring civilizations debated the unprecedented petition before them. The massive amphitheater, carved from a single asteroid, and reinforced with quantum-stabilized force fields, had never contained such tension in its 1,000-year history. High Counselor Zivix Moranti, the ancient Athelian whose species had founded the Confederation 8 millennia ago, raised his crystalline appendages for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. "We have reviewed the evidence presented by Commander Isari's delegation," Moranti announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "The human representatives await our decision in the antechamber. Before we vote on their petition for immediate membership, are there final arguments to be heard?" Council Representative Horvin Pell, his gaseous form swirling within his containment suit, floated forward. "Esteemed colleagues, I cannot stress enough the danger of allowing these primitives into our peaceful alliance. Their entire history is written in bloodshed. They have developed weapons specifically designed to kill their own kind. No civilized species maintains weapons after achieving unity." Murmurs of agreement rippled through sections of the chamber. "Furthermore," Pell continued, "their technology is crude. They have barely mastered limited faster-than-light travel. Standard protocols exist for a reason. A minimum 2-century observation period has been our way since the Confederation's founding." Commander Isari stepped forward, his ceremonial armor glinting under the chamber's soft light. He had not slept since the demonstration 3 cycles ago. "With respect, Representative Pell, I would have agreed with you before witnessing their capabilities firsthand." He activated the central hologram, displaying footage from the asteroid belt demonstration. "What you're seeing isn't technological sophistication, it's terrifying efficiency. Humans don't need advanced technology to be deadly. They've refined the art of warfare using basic physical principles our civilizations abandoned millennia ago." The chamber erupted as the footage showed the devastating impact of the kinetic weapons. Isari waited for quiet before continuing. "More concerning is what they haven't shown us. Ambassador Orson confirmed my suspicions. The weapons demonstrated represent obsolete technology by their standards. Their current military capabilities remain classified." Counselor Esvid of the Thalosian Collective raised her tentacles. "If they are so formidable, what prevents them from conquering Confederation worlds? Why seek alliance at all?" An unexpected voice answered from the chamber entrance. "Because conquest has never been our goal." All eyes turned to see Koppel Orson standing at the threshold, flanked by 2 Confederation guards who looked distinctly uncomfortable at her unauthorized presence. "Ambassador Orson," High Counselor Moranti stated, "these proceedings are closed until you decide our fate without truly understanding us," Orson interrupted, walking confidently to the center of the chamber. "I apologize for the intrusion, but I could not allow mischaracterizations of my species to go unchallenged." She gestured toward Representative Pell. "You call us primitives because our technology doesn't match yours. You fear us because our weapons aren't pretty energy beams that cauterize as they kill. You judge us because we haven't forgotten how to fight." Orson turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. "Yes, humanity has a violent history. We've fought ourselves more than any external threat. But with each conflict, we've grown, we've learned. The last global war on Earth occurred over a century ago. We've established peace not because we forgot how to make weapons, but because we remember too well their consequences." She activated her own data device, projecting images of Earth, its cities, forests, oceans teeming with life. "This is what we protect. This is why we fight. And this is why we seek alliance rather than isolation. The harvesters would have destroyed everything you see here. When they came, we didn't have the luxury of debating ethics. We acted, we survived." Ambassador Taris stepped forward, her translucent skin rippling with shifting emotions. "The Council appreciates your passion, Ambassador, but you must understand our concern. The Confederation was founded on principles of peace and cooperation." "Peace requires strength," Orson replied simply. The Harvesters weren't the first threat you faced, nor will they be the last. How many worlds has the Confederation lost to raiders and marauders while debating the proper civilized response? High Counselor Moranti's crystalline form shimmered, the Athelian equivalent of a sigh. Too many, he admitted quietly. Fleet Admiral Drezix Vorn reviewed the classified reports with growing alarm. The massive holographic display aboard the command ship Radiant Arbiter showed the devastation in stark detail. The outer colony world of Nexus Prime, once home to 12 million Confederation citizens, now reduced to molten slag. Play the final. Transmission again, he ordered, mandibles clicking nervously. The hologram shifted to show a terrified Mavorian officer, 4 of his 6 eyes already swollen shut from radiation exposure. They came without warning, ships unlike any we've encountered. Our planetary shields failed instantly. They're using some kind of directed radiation weapon. It's not in any of our databases. The civilians... Oh, Creator, the civilians are... The transmission dissolved into static. Admiral Vorn turned to his assembled war council. 3 colony worlds destroyed in 14 cycles. No survivors. No distress signals received until it was already too late. Whatever we're facing, it's not the Harvesters or any known threat. Ambassador Terraz, newly appointed to the Admiral's War Council after the human incident, leaned forward. The attack pattern suggests intelligence gathering. Each world was progressively closer to core Confederation space. Testing our response times, Vorn agreed grimly. Analyzing our defensive capabilities before striking critical targets. The door to the war room slid open, admitting High Counselor Moranti himself, an unprecedented event that caused the assembled officers to rise in respect. Counselor, Vorn acknowledged, we didn't expect your presence aboard a military vessel. These are unexpected times, Admiral, Moranti replied, his crystalline form dimmer than usual, a sign of deep distress among Athelians. I've come with a directive from the full council. He activated his personal communicator, and the hologram shifted to display Earth's solar system. The council has voted. We are formally requesting Earth's assistance against this new threat. A shocked silence fell over the war room. Counselor Admiral Vorn finally managed. The humans were denied Confederation membership barely 30 cycles ago. Their petition was rejected. They have no obligation to assist us. I'm well aware, Moranti replied heavily. I cast the deciding vote against them myself, a decision I now deeply regret. However, preliminary analysis of the weapon signatures used against our colonies bears disturbing similarities to radiation weapons humans reportedly developed centuries ago. Ambassador Terraz gasped. You believe humans are responsible? No, Moranti said firmly. But I believe they may recognize what we're facing, something they encountered or created in their violent past. The war room door opened again. This time, Koppel Orson entered alongside a tall, broad-shouldered human, male in what appeared to be a simple gray uniform devoid of ornamentation. High Counselor Moranti, Orson greeted formally. May I present Admiral Nazim Reza, commander of Earth's defensive fleet. The human nodded curtly. His dark eyes surveyed the room with unsettling intensity. You've suffered 3 attacks, he stated without preamble. Nexus Prime, Velis 4, and Tornath. Complete planetary destruction with minimal warning and no apparent motive beyond annihilation. Admiral Vorn's head crest extended in surprise. How could you possibly know about Tornath? That attack occurred less than 6 hours ago. We haven't even informed our own governments yet. Admiral Reza's expression remained impassive. Because we've been tracking them since they entered this arm of the galaxy 3 months ago. We lost a deep space monitoring outpost to them before. They reached your territory. He stepped forward, accessing the holographic display with practiced ease. The image shifted to show a fleet of sleek biomechanical vessels, unlike any ship design the Confederation had encountered. We call them the Scourge. Not their real name, of course. We've never established communication. They appeared at the edge of our solar system 62 years ago. They destroyed our outer colonies on Titan and Europa before we could mount an effective defense. But you defeated them, Moranti stated. not as a question. Reza's eyes darkened. At great cost. Yes, we recognize their weapons, cobalt-salted fusion bombs, designed for maximum radiation dispersal. An absolute planetary killer we'd theorized but never actually built. Seeing them deployed against our colonies, he paused. It united humanity in ways nothing else could have. Ambassador Tariz studied the human admiral. If you defeated them, why have they returned now, targeting Confederation worlds? They never left, Orson interjected. They've been moving through the void between star systems, avoiding detection, rebuilding their numbers. When your council rejected our petition for alliance, we continued monitoring threats independently. Admiral Reza nodded grimly. What attacked your worlds is merely a scouting force. Our deep space telemetry suggests their main armada is approaching, at least 30 times the size of the fleet that attacked Earth. The war room fell silent as the implications sank in. How? Admiral Vorn finally asked. How did you defeat them? For the first time, a hint of emotion crossed Reza's face, something between pride and terrible regret. With weapons the Confederation has never needed to develop. Weapons we hoped never to use again. The massive underground facility beneath the Himalayan mountain range stretched for kilometers in every direction. Ambassador Tariz followed her human escorts through cavernous chambers filled with machinery whose purpose she couldn't begin to fathom. Her translucent skin had remained a consistent alarmed purple since their shuttle had descended into Earth's atmosphere 12 hours earlier. This facility predates our expansion beyond Mars, explained Dr. Akini Okafor, Earth's Defense Science Director, as she led the Confederation delegation deeper into the complex. It was carved out during what we call the Third World War as a doomsday refuge. Now it serves as our primary weapons development laboratory. High Counselor Moranti glided beside them, his crystalline form catching and refracting the harsh artificial light. Your species built this for use against each other? Yes, Dr. Okafor replied without shame. Humanity spent millennia perfecting the art of self-destruction before we finally understood the greater value of cooperation. They entered a vast circular chamber, dominated by a holographic projection system far more sophisticated than anything the Confederation possessed. Admiral Reza awaited them, accompanied by a diverse group of human military officers. Welcome to the Strategic Defense Initiative Archives, Reza announced. What you're about to see is classified at the highest level. No non-human has ever been granted access before today. He activated the system, and the chamber transformed into a three-dimensional representation of Earth's solar system. Small, red markers appeared throughout, hundreds of them forming a complex defensive grid. These are our primary defense platforms, Reza explained. Automated systems capable of deploying a variety of countermeasures against incoming threats. Energy shields? Commander Isari inquired. No, replied a silver-haired human female, whom Tariz recognized as General Desta Abebe, Earth's ground forces commander. Kinetic kill vehicles, nuclear-tipped interceptors, and directed energy weapons. Our defensive philosophy differs fundamentally from the Confederation's. How so? Moranti asked. You build shields to absorb attacks, Admiral Reza said. We destroy threats before they reach us. With a gesture, he changed the display to show recordings of Earth's battle against the Scourge. Tariz watched in horrified fascination as primitive-looking human vessels deliberately collided with the biomechanical ships, detonating with catastrophic force. Other recordings showed massive missile barrages overwhelming enemy craft through sheer numbers. Your ships sacrificed themselves? Tariz whispered. Some did, Reza acknowledged grimly. The first wave of attacks caught us unprepared. We responded with what we had available. The display shifted again, showing a different kind of weapon. Massive satellites deploying what appeared to be simple metal rods. Project Thor, Dr. Okafor explained. Tungsten rods dropped from orbit. No explosives, no energy projection, just mass and velocity. When something moving at orbital speeds hits a target, the kinetic energy release exceeds most explosive yields. Commander Isari's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. These are the weapons you demonstrated in the Proxima, Centauri system. Our most basic systems, yes, Reza confirmed. But against the Scourge, we needed to deploy our more specialized deterrents. The hologram shifted again, displaying weapons that made even the battle-hardened Confederation officers recoil. Antimatter-catalyzed fusion devices, Dr. Okafor continued clinically. MERV delivery systems capable of overwhelming point defenses. Cobalt-jacketed thermonuclear warheads, a terrible irony, using the enemy's own concept against them. These weapons, High Counselor Moranti's voice faltered. They would destroy entire ecosystems. Yes, Admiral Reza said simply. They nearly destroyed ours. The radiation cleanup on Mars continues to this day, but we survived. He stepped closer to the Confederation delegation, his expression grave. You asked for our help. This is what we offer. Not just weapons, but the willingness to use them when faced with extinction. The question is, are you prepared to accept both? Tari's noticed something in the human officer's expressions she hadn't expected. Not pride in their destructive capability, but a profound weariness. These weren't bloodthirsty primitives eager for war. They were survivors who had paid an unimaginable price for their continued existence. There must be alternatives, Ambassador Tariz suggested. The Confederation has developed sophisticated diplomatic protocols for first contact scenarios. General Abebe shook her head. We attempted communication during their first incursion. Every approach was met with immediate attack. The Scourge appear to be a hive consciousness with a single imperative. Expand and consume. They don't negotiate. High Counselor Moranti drifted toward the center of the chamber, his crystalline appendages trembling slightly. If we deploy such weapons, if we embrace this philosophy of preemptive destruction, what does the Confederation become? Survivors, Koppel Orson said quietly from the chamber entrance where she had been silently observing. You become survivors. Like us. She walked to stand beside Admiral Reza. The Confederation has enjoyed millennia of relative peace, protected by your advanced shields and energy weapons. But the universe contains threats that don't play by civilized rules. The hologram shifted once more, displaying the projected path of the approaching Scourge Armada. According to the simulation, they would reach the Confederation core worlds within 30 cycles. We don't offer these weapons lightly, Admiral Reza continued. Humanity bears the psychological scars of their use, but we offer them nonetheless, because the alternative is extinction. The emergency session of the Confederation Grand Council stretched into its third day. Representatives from all member worlds crowded the massive chamber, their usual decorum replaced by panicked debate. News of the Scourge threat had spread despite attempts at containment, causing riots on several outer worlds already preparing for evacuation. High Counselor Moranti, flanked by the human delegation, raised his crystalline appendages for order. The chamber gradually quieted. Esteemed representatives, he began, his normally melodious voice strained. The evidence presented by Earth's military command has been verified independently by our own science division. The threat is real, imminent, and beyond our current defensive capabilities. Holographic projections materialized above the council floor, showing the destruction of Nexus Prime in horrifying detail. Several representatives turned away, unable to watch their fellow citizens reduced to ash. The Human Alliance proposal has been distributed to all members, Moranti continued. Before we vote, Admiral Reza has requested final address privileges. The human admiral stepped forward, his gray uniform stark against the ornate chamber. He carried no weapons, wore no decorations, yet his presence commanded attention more effectively than the most elaborately adorned Confederation official. Distinguished representatives, Reza began, his deep voice echoing, I understand your reluctance. 3 weeks ago, I stood before Earth's Unified Council making the same recommendation I offer you today. They too questioned whether an alliance with a civilization that had rejected us was worth the cost. He activated his own data device, projecting images of Earth, not its cities or natural beauty as Orson had shown before, but its scars, the radioactive exclusion zones around former population centers, the massive orbital defense grid, the memorial sites listing millions of names. This is the price we paid for victory against an enemy we didn't understand, using weapons we wished we'd never created. Reza's voice remained steady, but his eyes reflected decades of witnessed horror. I don't show you these images to frighten you, but to prepare you. The scourge cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be deterred. They can only be defeated through absolute commitment to survival. Representative Pell's gaseous form swirled agitatedly. Your proposal would militarize Confederation space. You demand we allow human weapons platforms throughout our territory, weapons that violate dozens of our most sacred treaties. Treaties that assume rational adversaries, Reza countered. The Scourge don't recognize your laws or diplomatic conventions. They recognize only strength and vulnerability. Ambassador Tariz stepped forward. In the days since visiting Earth's weapons facility, she had become an unexpected advocate for EU, the Human Alliance. My fellow representatives, she began, her normally translucent skin now set in determined opacity. I have spent my career advocating for peaceful solutions. I believed warfare was a primitive phase all advanced civilizations outgrew. I was wrong. A murmur ran through the chamber. The humans haven't offered us weapons out of aggression, but out of grim necessity. They've shown remarkable restraint by not building an empire with their capabilities. Instead, they offer partnership, their defensive expertise combined with our technological sophistication. High Counselor Moranti nodded. The proposed alliance includes complete technology exchange, human weapon systems integrated with Confederation faster-than-light capability, would create a defense network capable of intercepting the Scourge before they reach populated systems. And afterwards, demanded Representative Horvazel of the Meridian Collective. Once these weapons are deployed throughout Confederation space, what prevents humans from controlling our destiny? Koppel Orson stepped forward. A valid concern, Representative. That's why our proposal includes joint command, structures and automated self-destruct protocols. All deployed systems would require dual authorization, one human, one Confederation, for activation. Admiral Reza's expression remained impassive, but his words carried unmistakable weight. We don't seek control of your civilization. We seek mutual survival. Earth stands ready to commit our entire defense fleet to this effort. 80% of our military capability redeployed to Confederation space, protecting your worlds alongside our own. The chamber erupted into overlapping conversations as representatives consulted with their governments through neural links. Minutes stretched into hours as debates raged. Finally, High Counselor Moranti called for the vote. One by one, representatives registered their decisions. The massive holographic tally reflected a civilization at its most divided point in 8 millennia of unified existence. When the final vote appeared, silence fell over the chamber. By the narrowest margin in Confederation history, 3 votes, the Human Alliance proposal had been accepted. Admiral Reza showed no triumph, no satisfaction. He simply nodded gravely to Orson, then addressed the council once more. The Scourge will reach the outer defense perimeter in 18 days. Deployment of integrated defense systems begins immediately. As the council session adjourned, Commander Isari approached the human admiral. You knew they would approve it, he observed. Despite the margin, you never doubted. Reza's expression softened slightly, the first real emotion Isari had seen him display. Fear is a powerful motivator, Commander, the admiral replied, but hope is stronger. Your people chose hope. Wrapped in terrible packaging, but hope nonetheless. And if they had refused? Reza's gaze drifted toward the distant Earth, invisible from this sector but clearly fixed in his mind. Then we would have stood alone. Again. Reed, massive viewscreen aboard the joint command vessel Defiant Unity displayed the approaching Scourge Armada in merciless detail. Over 2,000 biomechanical ships, each the size of a small moon, moved in perfect haunting synchronization toward the hastily established defense perimeter between the Scourge and the core Confederation worlds. Fleet Admiral Niara Viss of the Confederation forces studied the tactical display beside her human counterpart. In the 3 weeks since the Alliance vote, the two military organizations had achieved what many considered impossible: a fully integrated command structure combining Confederation technology with human combat doctrine. "They're not adjusting course," she noted, her ridge scales darkening with concern. "They've detected our presence but continue their approach vector without deviation." Admiral Reza nodded grimly. "As expected, the Scourge don't recognize deterrence. They perceive all other life as resources to be harvested." The bridge hummed with tense activity as human and Confederation officers monitored their stations. Behind them, observation platforms held representatives from both governments, including Ambassador Taras and Koppel Orson, whose diplomatic efforts had made this unprecedented cooperation possible. "Primary defense grid is online," reported Commander Asari from his tactical station. "Human kinetic platforms showing green across all sectors. Confederation quantum shield generators at full capacity," added his human counterpart, Commander Ryota Ikeda. "Layered defense protocols activated." Admiral Viss turned to Reza. "This is unlike any battle the Confederation has faced. Your experience against these creatures is our greatest asset." Reza's expression remained stoic, but his eyes betrayed the weight of responsibility. "The Scourge will not recognize surrender. They will not accept limited engagement. Once combat begins, we must commit fully to their complete destruction." He addressed the bridge crew. "All personnel, remember your training. The enemy will target communication systems first, then propulsion. When isolated, they'll target life support. Maintain protocol discipline at all costs." The tactical display chimed as the Scourge crossed the outer sensor perimeter. "They've accelerated," Asari reported. "Estimated contact in 35 minutes. Ambassador." Taris approached the command platform. "Admiral Reza, there's still time to attempt communication, perhaps with our combined technological capabilities." "Ambassador," Reza interrupted gently, "I understand your desire for a peaceful resolution, but we've attempted contact in 18 different formats during their approach. Each attempt was met with encrypted data packets that destroyed the receiving systems. They're probing for vulnerabilities," Commander Ikeda explained. "Every communication is an attack." The bridge fell silent as the massive Scourge vessels continued their implacable advance. The first line of defense, automated platforms housing human-designed kinetic weapons mated to Confederation targeting systems, activated as the enemy entered range. "Weapons free," Admiral Viss announced. "All platforms cleared to engage." What to followed defied the expectations of even the most battle-hardened Confederation officers. The kinetic platforms released thousands of tungsten rods, accelerated to near relativistic speeds by Confederation gravity manipulators. The simple projectiles, containing no explosives, no energy signatures to trigger defensive countermeasures, tore through the leading Scourge vessels like cosmic spears. "Direct hits on 17 primary targets," Asari reported, his voice betraying surprise at the effectiveness of such primitive weapons. "Significant structural damage detected." But the Scourge response came swiftly. The damaged vessels released clouds of smaller craft, biomechanical drones that swarmed toward the defense platforms. "Countermeasures deploying," Commander Ikeda announced as the human-designed secondary defense grid activated. Miniature nuclear devices detonated in precisely calculated patterns, creating electromagnetic pulses that disabled swaths of the biological drones. For the first hour, the battle appeared to favor the Alliance. The combined defensive strategy, human, lethality guided by Confederation precision, inflicted unprecedented damage on the Scourge fleet. Nearly a third of their massive vessels drifted crippled or destroyed. Then everything changed. "New energy signature detected," Asari shouted, mandibles clicking rapidly. "The damaged Scourge vessels are—" The view screen flared blindingly as the wounded Scourge ships detonated simultaneously. Not simple explosions, but precisely calculated antimatter cascades that rippled through space, overwhelming the Confederation shields and destroying 60% of the forward defense grid in seconds. They sacrificed their damaged units, Admiral Reza observed grimly. Tactical adjustment. Fall back to secondary positions. As the Alliance fleet regrouped, the remaining Scourge vessels advanced through the debris field of their own destroyed ships, without hesitation. They're adapting to our weapons, Commander Ikeda reported. Kinetic strikes showing reduced effectiveness. They've modified their hull composition. Ambassador Orson stepped onto the command platform. Admiral, it's time for the contingency. Protocol. Reza's expression darkened. Very well. He turned to Admiral Viss. The situation requires deployment of our specialized deterrents. Admiral Viss hesitated only briefly before nodding. Authorized. From the rear of the defensive formation, a different class of vessel moved forward, human ships unmarked except for radiation warning symbols. They were smaller than the Confederation cruisers, seemingly primitive in design, yet the Confederation officers viewed them with newfound respect. Nova platforms deployed, Reza announced. All Allied vessels initiate radiation shielding protocols and fall back to minimum safe distance. As the Alliance fleet withdrew, the unmarked human vessels positioned themselves in a precise geometric pattern, facing the advancing Scourge armada. What are they doing? Ambassador Taris whispered to Orson. Those ships are practically defenseless. They're not meant to fight, Orson replied quietly. They're delivery systems. On the tactical display, the small human vessels suddenly accelerated toward the Scourge fleet. No evasive maneuvers, no attempt at self-preservation, just direct, deliberate vectors. Impact in 10 seconds, Commander Isari reported. Admiral. Reza's voice was barely audible. May God forgive us. The view screen automatically dimmed as multiple flashes of unimaginable brilliance erupted across the battlefield. Where the human ships collided with Scourge vessels, matter itself seemed to unravel, controlled quantum singularities briefly opening before collapsing, creating gravitational shears that tore the massive enemy craft apart, regardless of shields or hull composition. My God, Admiral Viss whispered. What have we unleashed? Admiral Reza's eyes reflected the distant destruction. Humanity's darkest creation. Portable singularity weapons, the theoretical endpoint of our weapons research. We developed the prototypes but never deployed them, until today. The surviving Scourge vessels, less than 20% of their original force, began to retreat, their perfect formation broken for the first time. They're withdrawing, Commander Ikeda confirmed. A cheer began to rise from the Confederation crew but died as they noticed the human officers remained grimly focused on their stations. Maintain battle stations, Admiral Reza ordered. This isn't over. As if confirming his assessment, the retreating Scourge vessels suddenly reversed course. Not to attack, but to position themselves in a precise geometric formation. Energy buildup detected, Isari reported urgently. Massive power signature, unlike anything in our database. It's a hive mind convergence, Reza explained, his voice tight with recognition. They're linking their consciousness to coordinate a final attack. The tactical display showed energy patterns connecting the remaining Scourge vessels, a complex web of power transfer building toward some terrible threshold. All vessels, prepare for imminent large-scale assault, Admiral Viss ordered. But Admiral Reza had already moved to a secured console, entering a complex authorization code. Ambassador Orson joined him, providing a secondary confirmation. What are you activating? Ambassador Taris demanded. Our final contingency. Orson replied softly. The one we hoped never to use. From the edge of the battlefield, a single human vessel decloaked. A small, unremarkable craft that had remained hidden throughout the engagement. Prometheus Protocol initiated, Admiral Reza announced. All vessels maximize distance from target area immediately. As the Alliance fleet executed an emergency withdrawal, the lone human ship accelerated directly toward the center of the Scourge. Formation. That pilot, Taris began, is unmanned, Orson assured her. Remote guidance only. On the tactical display, the small craft penetrated the heart of the Scourge energy web. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to fold. The view screen went completely black as sensors overloaded. When systems recovered seconds later where the Scourge fleet had been, there was nothing. No debris, no radiation signature, nothing but empty void. Target area shows complete matter-energy conversion, Commander Ikeda reported, his voice shaking slightly. 100% neutralization. Admiral Viss turned to Reza. What was that weapon? The human admiral's face showed not triumph but profound weariness. Project Prometheus. A weaponized exotic matter generator capable of creating a controlled quantum vacuum collapse. It converts all matter within its radius into pure energy, then dissipates that energy across dimensional barriers. Such technology, Viss whispered. It defies natural law. It defies conventional physics. Reza corrected quietly. We developed the theory during our darkest days, when Earth's survival seemed impossible. This was the third prototype. The first two destroyed the research facilities that created them, along with everyone inside. A stunned silence fell over the bridge as the full implications became clear. The humans had deployed a weapon that could, theoretically, unmake reality itself within its effective radius. The Scourge are defeated, Commander Isari stated, still staring at the empty sector where thousands of enemy vessels had been moments before. This battle is won, Reza corrected. But the Scourge are a hive-mind species. What we faced was merely their expeditionary force. Somewhere beyond our current sensor range, the main consciousness exists. They will adapt. They will return. Admiral Viss straightened her spinal ridge. When they do, the Confederation will be ready, with our new allies. For the first time since the battle began, Admiral Reza allowed himself a small nod of acknowledgement. Not quite a smile, but perhaps its distant relative. Together, he agreed. That's humanity's true strength, Admiral Viss. Not our weapons, but our willingness to stand together against extinction, no matter the cost. As the joint fleet regrouped and damage reports flooded, Ambassador Therese approached Orson at the observation viewport. Beyond the reinforced transparent aluminum, the stars shone with deceptive tranquility. Your people terrify me, Therese admitted quietly. Orson turned, her expression thoughtful. We terrify ourselves sometimes, but fear can be a teacher as well, as a tormentor. What lesson should the Confederation learn from this? Therese asked. Orson gazed out at the stars, her eyes reflecting pinpoints of light. That piece is precious precisely because it's fragile. That survival sometimes requires terrible choices. And that the universe contains both wonders and horrors beyond imagination. She turned back to Therese, extending her hand in the human gesture of friendship. Most importantly, that we're stronger together than alone. After a moment's hesitation, Therese extended her translucent appendage to meet Orson's hand. Together, she agreed. Though I pray to all my ancestral spirits that we never need to use such weapons again. Orson's smile held both hope and ancient sadness. That, Ambassador, is the most human prayer of all. In the command center, Admiral Reza reviewed the tactical data from the battle. He'd seen enough combat to recognize the patterns. The Scourge would adapt, would evolve new defenses against human weapons. The cycle of escalation would continue. But for the first time in humanity's long history of warfare, they wouldn't face the next threat alone. The stars that had once seemed so cold and distant now held the promise of alliance. Civilizations united not by common origins, but by common purpose. As the Defiant Unity plotted its course back to Confederation space, Admiral Reza allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Humanity had shared its darkest secrets, its most terrible creations with the galaxy. In doing so, they had found not conquest, but connection. It was perhaps the most unexpected victory of all. Across the vast emptiness of intergalactic space, something stirred. The distant consciousness of the Scourge hive mind processed the unexpected loss of its expeditionary force. New neural pathways formed, analyzing the unknown weapon that had destroyed its vessels. Deep within its collective awareness, something new emerged. An emotion the Scourge had never experienced in its millennia of existence, fear the end.